Well, returning to the situation in Libya now, where NATO will shortly assume control of the bombing campaign. Now, while civilians are still at threat from Colonel Gaddafi's seemingly undeterred armies, they also now risk the danger of so-called collateral damage by the Allies. And as RT's Anastasia Churkina reports, it's becoming increasingly reminiscent of NATO's bombing of Yugoslavia that took place 12 years ago.
In March, seasons change. Sunshine invites Americans onto the streets. American politicians invite themselves to foreign countries. March 1999. The U.S. and its NATO allies bomb Yugoslavia.
Armed forces joined our NATO allies in airstrikes against Serbian forces responsible for the brutality in Kosovo.
March 2011. America's next president and a new coalition of the willing attack Libya.
The UN Security Council passed a strong resolution that demands an end to the violence against citizens. It authorizes the use of force.
The attacks on Libya were sanctioned by the UN Security Council, in contrast to the bombings of Yugoslavia. There was no such green light in 1999, and the bombings were led by NATO, the first time the military alliance attacked a sovereign nation, a non-NATO member posing no threat to the group. Similarly, Libya poses no external threat, and there are other striking parallels between the conduct of these wars.
The enemy then, Slobodan Milosevic, dubbed the new Hitler. The enemy of today, the eccentric Muammar Gaddafi, in power for over 40 years, now similarly villainized by the U.S.
Colonel Gaddafi needs to step down from power and leave.
The goal now and back then, getting rid of a leader no longer favored by the West, taking sides with a questionable opposition in what started as a civil war.
What we're seeing is a full-fledged war, including attempting, evidently, to, kill the head of state of the targeted country and other leaders of the government. That, again, is, a page from the Yugoslav book of 12 years ago. What has the world learned? Evidently not much.
The official reason for Western involvement, a so-called humanitarian mission, a term coined amid the bombings of 1999.
You say, well, you can bomb a country because you're coming to save its people. And essentially that was the rationale behind the war in Yugoslavia.
A rationale still relied upon, but widely questioned.
You do not come to the rescue of civilians with bombs and missiles, okay? Bombs and missiles are part of a killing machine, and they inevitably will kill civilians.
The engine of that machine, both then and now, a no-fly zone, fueled in Libya by the additional, all-necessary measures, where the line between the enemy in a foreign land and its civilians often gets blurred. It did in Yugoslavia, with thousands of people killed and close to 1 million displaced.
After the war, when they did a count, they found that U.S. NATO bombs had destroyed 14 tanks in Serbia. 14 tanks. But they had also bombed 437 schools.
A similar scenario is now predicted in Libya.
They think that a quick bit of bombing will sort the matter out, but in fact, I think they will find that it will last far longer than they've gambled for.
12 years on, Serbia still remembers the losses inflicted by U.S. NATO bombings. The U.S. is now involved in its fourth attack of a foreign nation in these same 12 years. Anastasia Churkina, RT, New York.